these two teams seem to never be able to stay away from each other. The Miami Heat and the Boston Celtics find themselves both in another playoff series. This now makes for the last 5 years and 8 total playoff series played together. And these two teams seem to always be able to deliver on some legendary moments. But this time around, the scale seems to be tipped a lot more in one direction than the other. But then again, this isn't the first time we've seen it this way. And more times than not, this series always seems to go the distance. Now, it would be pretty embarrassing for this one to go the distance with some of the factors in this specific series, but you can never really count any of these teams out. One, the Boston Celtics making things harder on themselves than it has to be, and the Miami Heat pulling some bullshit out their hat to actually make this shit competitive. So today, not only we talk about the history of these two teams and how we even got here to this point of one of the greatest rivalries in the NBA and the best rivalry in the past 15 years, but we're going to talk about this most recent matchup and what we can expect from these two teams and how it may go the distance longer than a lot of people think it will. Now, since their inauguration, the Miami Heat have been one of the NBA's most successful franchises, and since the turn of the new millennium, I would comfortably put them in the top 3 of the most successful franchises in the NBA in the past 24 to 25 years. The Miami Heat in that span of time have won 3 championships, gone to 7 NBA finals, and 9 conference finals. And I think that's a term of success that can only really be compared to the likes of the Golden State Warriors, San Antonio Spurs, and maybe the Los Angeles Lakers. But I would comfortably put the Miami Heat around 3 behind both the Golden State Warriors and the San Antonio Spurs. Boston Celtics, while they've had their own success, they have struggled to really get it done when they do get to the top, but they have also been a pretty successful franchise in that span of time. With 1 NBA championship, they've been to the NBA Finals 3 times and 6 conference finals appearances in that span of time. And an important fact to note is that whenever these two teams meet, whoever wins the series ends up in the NBA Finals. In all of the matchups, whoever wins the series represents the Eastern Conference in the NBA Finals. So it's safe to say, outside of LeBron the goddamn James, whenever these two teams meet, they have a chokehold on this goddamn conference. So with all that being said, we like to go back to the first matchup they had, which was pretty one-sided in a sense, but it's important to note where some of this beef started with these guys. Now, while many people like to blame LeBron and Dwayne Wade and the Miami Heat for the whole guys teaming up thing in the NBA right now, we like to note that the Boston Celtics did it first. Now, while the Miami Heat did it in free agency, the Boston Celtics did it through trades. Overall, it still ended up the same way in super teams, and the Boston Celtics triggered what came next in the Miami Heat's own super team simply because they existed. You can see it in interviews even when KG said it on his own podcast. They knew LeBron could not beat all 5 of them, so what LeBron did was go get 2 motherfuckers that could help him beat them. But in between these two teams, the first matchup was LeBronless. In 2010, it was the Miami Heat and Dwayne Wade versus the Big 3 Boston Celtics. You can already tell where the series went very fast. A quick 5-game series, but it delivered Dwayne Wade's one of his best playoff performances with 46 points against the Boston Celtics, and showing them that he wasn't going out like no damn bitch. Now, while the series is over pretty quickly, and there was a Paul Pierce buzzer beater in there that stung a little bit, whatever. The next couple series, let's just say this team exercised their demons very, very well against the Boston Celtics. In 2011, the Miami Heat created their own super team, and after having a party talking about how many championships they're going to win, they knew eventually they were going to have to beat their demons in this team, and boy did they beat them. After a couple controversial plays like Dwayne Wade pulling Rondo down and hurting his shoulder, the Miami Heat made quick work of them, and there's multiple plays in this series where it literally looked like Dwayne Wade and LeBron were exercising their demons. They look crazy excited to beat the brakes off this team consistently. LeBron holding the ball in KG's face and just screaming, yeah. You have Dwayne Wade taking that charge and then just hyping up the crowd as the game goes down. And then LeBron hitting those back-to-back-to-back threes, I think, to push the dagger in even freaking further and letting these guys know that this series and their time is over. But they met again the following year in 2012. This time, it was a little bit different. The Boston Celtics came for blood, and in a shocking turn of events, Miami Heat saw themselves down 3-2, and it looked like, again, Pat Riley may have to blow up this big 3 because it seems like they couldn't get it done. And then LeBron decided to exercise his demons even more against his team. And what many people consider probably his greatest performances of his career, which is insane when he has all of these. Just the overall demeanor he had. The guy that's normally pretty cheerful and smiling, just not even cracking a smile, just genuinely seeming possessed. And just some of the shots he was taking and hitting that just didn't seem to want to come out the net were genuinely some crazily well defended shots. He just did not care. Multiple people will tell you, even Dom2K made a video saying that he didn't even finish the game when he was watching it. Guys like Bill Simmons said they didn't even stay in the goddamn arena. And after that game 6, people knew the Boston Celtics didn't stand a ghost of a chance in that game 7, and they really didn't. Now, after that, the Boston Celtics Big Three broke up, and the Miami Heat Big Three broke up a year after that. So we had a hiatus in these two teams meeting for a while. And boy, is there some animosity build up in the past couple of years. In 2020, the Miami Heat and the Boston Celtics met in the conference finals at the time. And these two teams, the series was the shortest so far. It went 6 games, and the Miami Heat just seemed a lot more experienced than the Boston Celtics and just seemed to always just have the advantage. And the main advantage they had was Bam Adebayo above Daniel Tice, and Bam Adebayo completely destroyed that man. It was ultimately the tip and scale in that series, with the Miami Heat winning the series in 6 and him having his iconic play in the NBA playoffs, a block on Jason Tatum to seal game 1. Now, the second meeting in 2022 was absolutely freaking horrific. I don't think people realize just how dumb that series was. You have the game 3 Jimmy injury where he had to go back to the locker room and miss the whole second half, and Bam Adebayo going crazy with 31 to win the Miami Heat that game. Then you have Jimmy just not being right and his knee being awful for the next 2 games. So the Boston Celtics wiped that. But then coming back and putting on a masterclass 47 points in game 6 to extend the series to 7, and then 35 in game 7, but only missing the most heartbreaking shot of my goddamn life to send the Boston Celtics to the NBA Finals. But then their next meeting in 2023, last year, was absolutely magical. The Miami Heat came out and beat the brakes off these boys in the first 3 games. It wasn't even a goddamn competition. It was truly embarrassing. The Miami Heat had no business beating this team as bad as they did. Not only were they seemingly way less talented than they were the year before, considering they were the 1st seed the year before and they were the 7th seed this year, but became the 8th seed because they lost in the play-in. Boston Celtics were the best team in the NBA, or looked like the best team in the NBA. There's no reason why Jimmy Butler was able to do that to you in game 1, and then you let Grant Williams decide to spark him up again from to do him to you twice, and then the entire team beat your ass like you're their goddamn child in game 3. But respect to the Boston Celtics and Jaylen Brown, they fought back and they were going to take that shit lying down. The only don't let us get one chant that they were constantly doing after every single game, after they kept winning one, was some horrifying shit to witness as a Miami Heat fan, because it felt like they were walking us the fuck down. And then in game 6, it was heartbreaking with that Derek White tip-in to send the series to 7. It really felt like everything was falling out under this team after such an amazing run. But then, again, not closing this team out very early in the series like the Celtics supposed to do came back to bite them. Jason Tatum rolled his ankle in the first play of Game 7, and the Miami Heat went on to beat the brakes off this team again, going into the NBA Finals. So now everybody's saying the Miami Heat are the Boston Celtics kryptonite, and even with the talent gap this year being extremely different, and then now Jimmy Butler not being a factor in the series, and their new pickup that they traded Kyle Lowry for, and Terry Rozier, and seeming like he won't be available until like game 3 or 4 of the series, some people still have a little bit of faith that the Miami Heat can push the series pretty far. Now, the majority of people have the series going to 5, and I can understand why, but you can always count on some bullshit happening. People expect the Boston Celtics to not come in here with a no bullshit mindset and completely push this team out the way. But there's one factor that consistently beats the Boston Celtics, and that is that head coaching spot. Eric Spoelstra has found a way to outcoach every single Boston Celtics coach in every single series he's had every single time. Doc Rivers got it every single time. Brad Stevens got it that one time. Ime Udoka, while they won that series, Eric Spoelstra, I would consider, was coaching circles around him, considering the difference in talent and the amount of injuries the Miami Heat was dealing with at the time. And then last year, did it again. Eric Spoelstra is probably the best defensive coach in the NBA and probably the best defensive coach in the past 2 decades. There's a reason why he got the contract he did. And he's always able to come up with schemes that limit other team superstars to the umpteenth degree. He did it last year in Nikola Jokic, and while the Miami Heat lost it because they just didn't have the offensive output to keep up with the Nuggets had their worst offensive series in the entire NBA playoffs. The year before, the Boston Celtics had their worst offensive series in the NBA playoffs. They consistently are able to put teams in bad spots and get the game in the mud, and I don't think this is any different. I think this series is going to always consistently come down to 4th quarter execution, something that the Boston Celtics, while this season they've been great, they're a 64 win team, of course they have to be good in the 4th quarter, but they've always seemed to collapse when it comes to the NBA playoffs, specifically against this Miami Heat team. And a lot of that had to come with poor ball handling and poor decision making from guys like Marcus Smart and Jaylen Brown. Now, the Boston Celtics have made some moves to try to figure out those problems, like getting Kristaps Porzingis to be the solver of that Miami Heat zone, and overall getting rid of bad decision makers like Marcus Smart that led to those bad 4th quarter performances, and getting the ball out of Jaylen Brown's hands as a playmaker and just let him be a scorer was the best thing they could do. But overall, they still have some issues that need to be worked out that can be exploited. Jason Tatum loves that jumper way too much, and this year It's a little bit different. The Miami Heat have a little bit more size on them. And this year, you're not going to be seeing Bam Adebayo guarding the rim. He's most likely going to be the one guarding Jason Tatum. And you're going to see somebody like Haywood Highsmith on Jason Tatum. And Jason Tatum has made only 5 of his last 28 shots against Haywood Highsmith and has had about, I think, 3 or 4 turnovers. Now, with all that being said, talent gap is still actually freaking insane. There's no reason why this series could go anywhere past 5, but you can never count this team out, and you can never count the Boston Celtics not doing something stupid for this to happen. You can never count the Miami Heat just getting some devil boost to make this series competitive, or God forbid, win it. Personally, if we take this series, the video you'll see come from me will be absolutely insane. But overall, I'm very excited for these NBA players. I will be talking about a couple more series. I'll probably have a video coming about the Lakers-Nuggets series a little bit later, even though game 1 is today, later today. But I'm trying to get back into content a little bit more, so I hope you guys like it. This new format with the, the cam and the edits behind it is the new setup I'm trying to go for, just to really get my face in the camera. So let me know if you guys like it. With that being said, let me know if you guys like the video in the comment section down below. This is up, B. That's my time, and I'm out.